to start today because there's so much going on this weekend. I thought I'd start with my club with you and just say, Varane versus Ten Hag, talk to me. That's all I can say. Varane versus Ten Hag, what you saying?
You know what it is? I'll be honest with you. It's just like your club is just currently doing the best impersonation of keeping up with the Kardashians, you know? Like it's just weekly drama. It's like a reality TV series. And I'll be honest, it's very enjoyable from the outside looking in. It's very, very enjoyable from the outside looking in. And this is where people who back Ten Hag find it difficult. This is where people who will back Ten Hag just find it really difficult to back him in certain situations. Because I know your opinion, for example, on the matter. It's just going to be a cycle, and it's your focus is on how can I say? Your focus is more on the owners, but at the same time you recognize Ten Hag's mistakes. There are people out there who are Ten Hag in, who are like full on Ten Hag supporters as well, who will find it difficult to defend this. Rafael Varane is not someone you want to lose out on in the team currently with, and on top of that, have that entire media situation. First of all, there's something called self-awareness. Okay? Alhamdulillah, I've come a long way on this content creation thing, but I recognize I'm not Mark Goldbridge. I recognize I'm not certain people. You know, we can get there, inshallah, one day if we keep working hard, but I recognize I'm not that guy. With Ten Hag, he needs to realize he's not Mourinho. He's not Klopp. He's not Pep Guardiola. He's not someone who's been there, done that, won it all, done this, done that, so he can come out and say shit like that. 10 years ago, when Jose Mourinho was calling out players for Real Madrid, for Chelsea, etc., you're like, oh, that's Jose Mourinho. You know, it's okay because it's Jose. When it was Pep Guardiola calling out Man City players or Bayern players, you're like, you know what, that's Pep Guardiola. When Jurgen Klopp wanted to call out Mamadou Sakho and other players in Liverpool and first walked in, you're like, you know what, that's Jurgen Klopp. That's someone who's accomplished, been there, done that. With Ten Hag, he hasn't achieved anything significant. I'm saying significant. Has he done small achievements? Of course. But has he done achievements enough to come out and call out the likes of Rafael Varane? No, he hasn't. No, he hasn't. Now, the reality is, sometimes you have to make do with the players you have. Is Rafael Varane the best player in the league? No. Is he the best centre-back in the league? No. But is he better than Maguire? Yes. Is he better than Johnny Evans? Yes. Even if you have something, it doesn't need to be made public. Whoever the hell is the mole as well, there's a mole, clearly. The mole need to get dealt with. That's another thing as well. Because Varane and Ten Hag has had a private conversation, and it should never been leaked out to the media, ever. Should have never been leaked out to the media. That should have just been a personal thing right there. And I still think, currently, out of your options, the reality is, whether people like it or not, see, let me just, because I just want to roll it back to something quickly before I know you want to speak on it as well. With Jadon Sancho, I was a lot more understanding because Jadon Sancho hasn't really done anything. Like Jadon Sancho, since he's come at Man United, it's fair to say, hasn't lived up to his price tag, hasn't achieved what's required, hasn't done this, hasn't done that. With Rafael Varane, factually right now, with Lisandro out, factually, I don't think it's debatable, to be honest. He's your best centre-back. Like, he's actually your best centre-back. So you don't fall out with your best centre-back. I'm just being completely honest with you on that.
Yeah, look, I look at it from a few ways. I think I understand what you've said there, the notion that Casemiro and Varane have achieved more in football than Ten Hag. Therefore, he shouldn't speak to them in a certain way, or he can't treat them a certain way. That's a dangerous precedent to set. The reason that's a dangerous precedent to set is if you think about, say we sack Ten Hag, what manager in the world is attainable and of the higher standard who's achieved more than those two in football?
No one, and that's exactly why you're fucked.
But this is the thing. But that logic works the same for your club. There's very few managers in the world that have achieved what your current sort of squad in Liverpool have done. Therefore, that logic dictates that when Klopp leaves and the new guy comes in, the players that have won more than that manager shouldn't listen to him. That, to me, as a general rule, is wrong. So that, for me, isn't the issue here. Because I don't care whether Ten Hag hasn't won a Champions League and Varane has 4 or 5. I don't care if I've got a defender that's won two World Cups and my manager never has even played at a World Cup. There needs to be a level of respect. However, this is a balanced and nuanced argument. The manager now has had problems with Ronaldo, with De Gea, with Sancho. There's clearly an issue with Casemiro. There's clearly an issue with with Varane, and he hasn't handled them all well. So I'm not saying he's handled them well and he shouldn't be criticized. I just don't agree with the logic that a manager who hasn't achieved as much as some of these players shouldn't have full control, respect, and power. Where I agree, what I do agree with is that respect is earned, and I don't necessarily think he's done a good enough job of doing that if you look at all the situations and the body of work. So this is what I would say to people.
Would you criticize Ten Hag's man management then?
A lot of people are defending his man management. I'm saying, okay, hang on, let's not be hypocrites here. So a lot of us looked at the situation with Jadon Sancho, and I hated the argument, well, Rashford don't try in games, yet he's not dropped, and Sancho doesn't try in training, and yet he is. Well, you're comparing apples with oranges. You've got to, if you can prove, or if there's comments that Rashford's also a weak trainer, but yet he's not being dropped, then your argument stacks up. However, the reason why a lot of people kind of sided with Ten Hag and went, I could understand why maybe he's telling the truth about Sancho's training habits, is because there's been multiple stories in the past of Jadon Sancho's training habits. But if that's your logic on that situation, you look at how many players the manager's fought out with, and you have to start sitting there and thinking, you have to sit there and start thinking to yourself, there is a problem with this guy's man management. And I think that's my issue here, is everything is so... Look, every...
I know which comment you read, by the way.
It's so... Everything's so polarized, and it's just... The notion, and this is the problem we have. We set this standard as a club. It's mad. Should never have a standard that if the manager's won less than certain players in your squad, he can't tell them what to do. Because depending on who's available and who wants to join you with, that basically means you could bring in a new manager, and based on who's available, you're guaranteeing failure before a ball is kicked, depending upon the squad of which you have got. However, the manager's management needs to be looked at. But I think it's all stems to how we're trying to play. Sorry, mate, go on.
I'm not saying that, Terry. I'm saying he is not the caliber of other managers. He himself needs to earn that. I'm not comparing Ten Hag's CV to Varane's CV. I'm comparing Ten Hag's CV to other managers' CV. And if you want me to just kind of clarify an example I could give you from my own club, in Firmino's new book, he talks about when a substitution was needed, it was never Salah that came out. It was never Mane that came out. It was always Firmino that came out. He recognized that, okay, I'm the third wheel. Salah Mane situation. It's just how it goes. Now with Rafael Varane, he's not Mo Salah, he's not Mane. I understand that for Manchester United. But at the same time, as Ten Hag, this is where I take a step back and go like, he's my best centre back. I need him right now. I do not need this falling out. I need to get him on side. And this is where me and you now meet and agree on Ten Hag's man management. Because the players can't all be wrong and he's right. Like
no, that element I don't disagree with. I don't. Again, it's not so much about the CV for me, because at some point, you could always argue that if sometimes you're not bringing in the best manager in the world. Sometimes you're going to be bringing someone in that would probably get ranked about 10th, and that's going to happen. So you can't have that as a rule and precedent. However, to ignore Ten Hag has made mistakes and that he's got flaws in this area is ridiculous. It just cannot be true in any capacity. And I think the biggest issue, I think it's two things are hurting United right now. One, the Jadon Sancho situation, and it's why I've always said I like the fact that managers lie in press conferences. I like they don't tell us the full truth, because nobody can handle it, especially not in 2023. The truth really hurts people. Secondly, I think he's overworking the players and they don't like what he's trying to do stylistically. And you could argue, and I understand the argument, well, the players should just do as they're told. And I do get that. And I'm not saying they're right for not giving it their all, but it isn't working. I saw a stat earlier on today, and it shows his heat maps of the teams that allow the most progression against them. Arsenal, Spurs, Chelsea, City are the best. Then it's Liverpool, slightly more. It's like the more yellow and orange it is, the worse it is. Yours is slightly more than them, but only minuscule. There's only 3 or 4 or 5 teams who have significantly worse progression against them than Manchester United. So there's a system issue here. There is an effort issue here. And this is either the manager completely losing the dressing room and nobody trying for him, or there is a complete lack of understanding around what he is asking them to do. And I think for me, all these things feed into the situation. And I don't care if he falls out of all these top players.
I think he lost the dressing room. I think that's a valid thing to
No,
to
I
say.
understand. Again, I just want to finish that point. I don't want to leave my point. I don't care if he's lost the dress, if he falls out with players, because people think that's a weird thing to say. I don't care that he's fallen out with players. as long as it results in us improving. So I had someone message me earlier saying, but Fergie fell out with lots of top players. You weren't worried about that. Well, that's because Fergie continually won. If Fergie would have got rid of, when he got rid of Ince and Kanchelskis and Mark Hughes, if we would have flopped for 2 or 3 years, that would have been a bad mistake. If we'd have got rid of Beckham and we would have regressed, that would have been a mistake. If we'd have got rid of Jaap Stam and we regressed, that would have been a mistake. If he decided to get rid of Van Nistelrooy and not because of his feud essentially with Cristiano Ronaldo, and Ronaldo flopped, there was he wouldn't have even got to that point if those previous sacrifices and people that he kicked out the club had led to him failing. If you make the moves that Ten Hag's making, the team needs to improve. When the Ozils and the Aubameyangs are moved out of Arsenal, they had to get better. And in the end, he has to try and win still. If they do, then you can look at that and go, well, yeah, he didn't get on with some of those big names and big money players back then. But in those actions, they became a better football club. If you get rid of your best players because they're not doing what you want, and then you regress, it's a mistake at the end of the day, because your job is to make your football team win. And if you're not making your football team win, what you're doing is a mistake. And you still have to assess the situation you're in. We can move on to the Glazers, and we know this is inherent. We know this is systemic. We know this has happened to previous managers. Well, therefore, you have to go into that environment and go, right, maybe I can't act like a totalitarian in here. I can't be a disciplinarian because that isn't going to work. I've got to do it a different way. You've got to get your tact right. And the manager has failed at that. And I've been talking about it for weeks now. Something is wrong with the way we are, with the way we're playing. And the fact that there are some Man United fans who are burying their head in the sand and just hoping and praying that everything is going to be okay is beyond me. In terms of the game this weekend at Everton, how do you see it going?
You're the unluckiest club in the world, aren't you, this season? You're just the unluckiest You're the unluckiest bastards on this planet, I'll be honest with you. You're so unlucky this season. This is the absolute worst time to play Everton. Imagine the whole charges thing didn't happen, right? Genuinely speaking, no cap, I would have came on here and said Man United like 2-0 win. Like I would have been like, because I don't think Everton are that good either, to be honest. I don't think Everton are good. Everton are not a team that should scare Man United. But now Sean Dyche will have his easiest pre-game speech of his entire career. The whole Premier League is against us. We just got this many points deducted. We're gonna show the world that we don't deserve to get relegated, and what better to do it than against Manchester United, and blah blah blah. And Goodison's gonna be rocking, and it's gonna be an us against the world atmosphere. And you know who crumbles in said atmosphere? Manchester United. So I'll be honest with you. I have never been more confident of predicting a Man United loss than the game on Sunday. And it's just because of everything outside the pitch. I'll be honest with you. It's genuinely because of everything outside the pitch. Sometimes, guys, in football, it's not even just stuff that happens on the pitch. It's not even managers. It's not even any of that. Sometimes it's just this off-the-pitch environment that affects what's happening in-game. Please understand that the Goodison is going to be rocking like you've never seen it before. I promise you that this is the most rocking Goodison is going to be probably in the last 20 years. It's going to be an us against the world atmosphere. And as a Liverpool fan as well, I know that, because when it's an us against the world atmosphere, you get a Liverpool-Barcelona. Scousers love the us against the world thing. And that's one thing that no one can deny. So for me, that right there, Everton are just going to, that stadium is going to be rocking. Sean Dyche is going to have them so ready, so physical and everything. And I think Everton are going to win. And it'll just compound Ten Hag's misery. And you know why it'll compound Ten Hag's misery? Because you're going to a stadium that's even considerably worse than Goodison, nicknamed the Hell 3 days later. So enjoy this week, Terry. Enjoy this week. I promise you this week will make you miss the international break. I promise you.
Do you know what's interesting about it? It's I want these tests if I believed in what we were doing, but I don't believe in what we're doing right now. So I feel very apprehensive about this week. We're away to Everton, then we go away to Galatasaray, and then I want to double check. I'll make sure. I want to say Newcastle, but I could be very, very wrong. Yeah, then we're away to Newcastle. So it's an absolute. And then the following Wednesday, the 6th of December, we're at home to Chelsea. So we have, in the next sort of just under 2 weeks, we have a very, very difficult period. And the problem that we have, it isn't as though we've been playing well and narrowly losing out. We've been playing poorly. We've got no guts. We've got no heart. And as a Man United fan, I want to sit here and defend my club. I want to sit here and fight for us. But I just find it right now, it's stupid to do that, because there is no there's almost not, there's barely any evidence that we're going to improve. Now, I'd love us to. I'd love us to go to Goodison Park, stare down that ferocious atmosphere, keep hold of the ball in the first 10 minutes, score an early goal, silence the fans. If we do that, if we score the first goal and silence their fans, we'll bash them, because then all the energy will be sucked out of them. But do Man United have the heart to do that? Right now, I don't believe it. We're a better football team than Galatasaray. How they will beat us is by their fans.
Everton as well.
Sorry?
And you're a better team than Everton as well.
We're far better than we're far better than Everton. We're a better team than Galatasaray, but can we handle that pressure? We've never won away from home against them. So this is when I say Newcastle as well, we've had some slappings by Newcastle at their ground in recent years. I look at these 3 games. If the manager hasn't lost this dressing room and we are not up for these games and we cannot handle the pressure of these games, it's done for him as a manager. This is a good and a bad time. It tells us where we are with him. Can he turn this around with or without Sir Jim coming in and the investments side of things? If they win these matches, if they come in and they stand up to that pressure, they win these games, and by next Friday 2 of them would have been played, then we're having a very different conversation. Then it's okay, well, these players are actually got their teeth down and gritted for him. He's got a few players back. Things are looking better. Maybe it isn't as bad as the media is making it out to be. But if we're poor, it tells me that so many of these stories, maybe not in their entirety, but I feel like they're loosely based on truth, because there is a disjointed feeling about this team right now. And as a Man United fan, it makes me sad to see. I know rivals absolutely love seeing it, but I just feel, and I'm really gutted, because I thought Ten Hag was going to be the guy I never thought anybody under the strict 100% ownership of the Glazers was ever going to get us back to peak of the powers. But I saw so many good signs last year, so many elements where I thought, oh, he really is good. And it's some of the things he said stylistically about the play, the buying of the Mounts and the Amrabats, but they're barely playing. It's the what he's done to the system to expose the lack of pace in the middle. There's so many of these little parts where I think to myself, it's really gone wrong very, very quickly. But look, viewers, let us know.